This is Dr. Mark Scott, and this video is going to walk you through some thoughts about reading and taking notes on what you read in graduate school. When we read for pleasure, we sometimes don't always put a lot of thought into what we're doing. We pick up a book, if we're engaged in it, if we really like what's going on, we'll read and just try to find out what happens next and just turn the page to get to that next plot point. There's nothing wrong with that kind of reading. It's awesome when that happens. But that approach to reading is not going to help you out too much in graduate school. And a spoiler alert, I don't often assign a lot of things that are page turners. It can be some difficult reading, so you need strategies in place that are going to help you do what you need to do in graduate school to understand what you read and to be able to recall information later. So again, you're going to be confronted with a lot of text, and that system that you have needs to help you annotate what you read and be able to recall that information later and to keep track of what you read. So we all develop different systems for annotating what we read, and what works for me will not necessarily work for you. I encourage you to try out a few different systems to see what might work. In the supplemental resources folder for today's activities, I have a few different links to web articles and to a blog that where people think a lot about how do you take notes in graduate school. Take a look at one of those and see what might work for you. There are a few things that your system needs, though, whatever you end up choosing. It needs to be simple enough that you can apply it to the different kinds of text that you're going to encounter in graduate school. You're going to read more theoretical text. You're going to read more texts that are about, more how to do things. We'll definitely read those kinds of texts in this class about assessment. So you need something that's simple, that's going to be portable to those different kinds of texts. And that simplicity is also going to make things easier for you to recall what you read and what you thought about what you read. After I've finished reading an article, I will journal a little bit about it. Sometimes I'll identify key quotes and I'll write about why I think they're important. I will try to summarize the article first, and then I will put the page number on the left-hand side in the margin in my journal, and then I'll write a little bit about what was going on. I'll either quote something or I'll paraphrase something and comment on why I thought it was important. I then use a application called EndNote, which I'm going to take you to here in just a little bit, that will help me recall that information later. So I write out things in a handwritten journal. Sometimes when I'm writing for publication, I will write in a Word document so that I can use the Control F feature and I can find things later. Whatever system works for you. You want to be able to recall information later. So if you're putting together a thesis project or your final portfolio or a final class project, you want to be able to go back and find those things pretty quickly without having to reread a book or articles that you've already read. So let me take you to EndNote so I can kind of show you how I'm keeping track of what I read. It also helps me build my list of works cited, and it can be a pretty helpful tool. So just one second while I show you that. So this is Zotero. I think I might have mistakenly referred to it as EndNote. EndNote is another citation management software that you can use, but I use Zotero because it's free and you can download it. The code is open source, so they update it pretty frequently, and it works pretty well. Like it's not very buggy. So I have different folders for the different kinds of reading that I do. So basic writing, assessment, writing centers. I've been moving things over here into Zotero, so I don't have everything that I've read in here, obviously. But taking a quick look at assessment. So let's see. When I click on one of the things that I've read, this was a book that I read. It's edited by these two folks. I have the information here. I have to key enter some of this stuff. Sometimes, though, there's an extension that they have available for Zotero. When you find information online, you can click a button and it will record information for you. And sometimes it gets it right, and sometimes you have to correct it. But the thing that I wanted to show you is that there's a notes feature. And in notes, I write down where in my research journal and what page I had done some reading. So I do have all the citation, and this speaks to Microsoft Word. So when I'm actually writing a document, I can turn on Zotero and say I want to insert a citation here for Helling, Hansen, and Sacreter. and it will auto-populate that in-text citation and create my list of works cited. So it's a pretty slick and pretty cool thing. But what I think is really kind of cool for what I'm talking to you all about is notes. Making sure that I can find where my notes are about what I read. So those are some thoughts about reading in graduate school. I don't mean this video to like talk down to anybody or to assume you don't know how to read. I know that I would have benefited, however, if somebody was to pull me aside as a beginning graduate student to say, you're going to read a lot, you're going to forget a lot. Put together a system that helps you recall some of what you read so that you can be a little bit quicker in the arguments that you make in graduate school when you're writing a publication or maybe putting together a presentation or a final project. Having some notes and a system of note-taking that works for you can make a huge difference. It can also mean that it's a little less labor on your end to read and to recall information. I hope this was helpful, and I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts in the discussion board.